Hello again. So we are going to continue with the solving of quadratic equations, and we're going to use completing the square method. First, let's do a quick review of completing a square and the process. So I've got three examples up here for you. The first example, A, is basically you're given two terms in expression. We want to add something to it so that it will give us a perfect square trinomial. And remember, the very first thing you have to do, you have to take the coefficient of the linear term, so that's 18 right here, that's 18. You divide it by 2. So what is 18 divided by 2? That is 9. And then you take the 9 and then you have to square the 9 and you add. And that's what you would do. And so it would be plus 9 squared. So final answer, x plus 18x plus 81. And then if you factor that, you'll end up getting x plus 9 all squared. Okay? Very, very straightforward. Okay, next one. This one, x squared minus 5x. All right, again, same idea. What is the middle term or the coefficient of the linear term? Sorry, that should say minus 5x. Here you go, minus 5x. All right, the coefficient of the middle term is minus 5. So we're going to take the minus 5 divided by 2. Okay, and now you can use it as a decimal expansion, and that's okay. Or you can leave it as 5/2 negative. And then whatever you get, then you have to square. And then take that and add to that. So your answer now will be x squared. This one, x squared minus 5x, and then plus 2.5 squared. All right, so and that is x squared minus 5x. And if you want to actually find out what the 2.5 squared is, that's okay. That's, I believe, that's 6.25. Okay, and then you write it in terms of the perfect square trinomial or the binomial squared. So this in this case would be x minus, now here's the piece. Okay, so the piece is that this 5/2, which is right here, so that would be 5/2. You have to have that, and then that becomes basically this 5/2 is a square root of 6.25. That's what that is. Or you can actually use the middle term divided by 2 and put it in there. All right, whichever you decide, and then to the power of 2. Now, why is this negative? Because the original, this is negative. The coefficient of the linear term was negative, and that's why the middle term is negative. Okay, excellent. That's it. Let's do the last piece. So in this case, you notice that we have a coefficient. The coefficient of the quadratic term is not 1, it's 2. Well, that's okay. First factor that out of the two terms, and then we go ahead and do the completeness square. All right, so 2 out. Factor 2 out, you get x squared minus 4x. Okay, so now you look at the bracket. This is the bracket. Inside that bracket, we need to add something in there that makes the inside the bracket a perfect square trinomial. All right, same idea again. Very easy. So here it is. So you can actually, in this case, we can ignore the 2 outside, and then we go ahead and do that. And here we can do x squared minus 4x, and then half of minus 4 is minus 2, and then a square. I'm just going to put it like that. And then your final answer will be 2 is outside. This will be x squared minus 4x plus 4, and then putting them all together will be x minus 2 all squared with a 2 in front of it. The idea was that this is now the binomial squared, which an x squared minus 4x plus 4 is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, let's go ahead now solve a new quadratic equation. And this quadratic equation, this trinomial is not factorable. That's why you cannot factor it. That's why we have to use the completing the square method. And that's what we're going to do. First, you need to isolate the constant value. Okay, so that's step 1. Isolate the constant term. So we're coming here, we say x squared plus 14x equals to minus 40. Okay, that's the first thing that we're going to do. Now notice that we have this same kind of a situation as we just went through. We want to complete this square here to make it a perfect square trinomial. What should we add? Well, we can go ahead and we say, okay, this is x squared plus 14x plus, and then we add half of 14, which is 7 squared here. Now, because we added 7 squared here, we can just add to one side of the equation. This is an equation. Whatever we add to one side, we have to add to the other side. So now we're going to go minus 40, and we added 49 onto this side. We have to take that, or add that to the other side. Okay, so we can do that. Now we go ahead and then rewrite. So this becomes x plus 7 all the squared equals to minus 40 plus 49. That would be positive 9. Great. Now that we have that, we're going to go through and solve. You already know how to do that. This is the power of 2. We need to undo or use a inverse operation of exponent 2, which is going to be a square root. We're going to take the square root of both sides. And when we do that, we get x plus 7 comes out. The 2 is going to go away, the exponent of 2, because we're taking the square root of it. And then the square root of 9. And the square root of 9, remember, 2 possibilities. That's plus or minus 3. Okay, either positive 3 or negative 3. And the way we write it is like that. So what are the 2 possible options? So x1 is take the positive root first. All right, take the positive root first. So it would be 3 minus 7, which is equal to minus 4. Okay, so that's x1. And x2 will take the negative. So in here we'll go with negative 3, negative 7. Okay, and the answer would be minus 10. And x2 equal to negative 10. Excellent. Now that we have this, we're just going to go through your answer. And always you plug these values into the original. Okay, check your answer, your answers, both of the answers. You notice that we came up with a solution. You plug it back in there and make sure it works, and that would be the final answer for you. Okay.